Hi, Professor Maurer, and maybe the dean if one of Daniel or my e-portfolios are deemed to be a top 3 in the class. After our class about domestic agreements, Daniel and I had a bit of a debate about if we think the court should be able to set aside domestic agreements that were made privately due to certain factors like unconscionability. Daniel, being the shrewd capitalist he is in favor of private ordering.
I think it just has to be very careful. The courts have to be very careful. They obviously need to defer to private ordering, especially in this type of situation where if it's even being discussed, a contract like a marriage agreement as such, that's going to limit one of our abilities to, attack the other party or sue the other party. If that's even being discussed, you have to realize that that's a possibility because it's going through one party's head. So you can't be naive about the situation. I understand in certain extreme situations there's like a very unconscionable situation and the courts might need to step in, but I think generally they have to defer to private ordering.
And I think that the presumption should almost be to set aside the order. That's a little, just because, especially in cases when there wasn't a lawyer for both parties, there's a power imbalance there. And I think a lot of times, especially when you're in a hostile divorce, people are going to make rash decisions, sign documents they probably shouldn't sign, and we should really look out for cases like that and not allow private ordering to rule the day.
No, I see your point. It's well taken. I just think in hostile divorces, a lot of times you forget kind of what you had agreed upon and how happy you were with each other, and you start getting in a fight about material items, and you're really fighting for something maybe more than a divorce for what its really intent is, to separate the parties. And I think if you've created this contract at the start, maybe that was your true intent when you actually got married. And to now go back and be able to completely alter that or have a court just set that aside, I think that's obviously problematic. If the court was going to take that into consideration for, like an NFP payment, maybe that would be okay, but to totally separate that and put it to the side and just look past it, I think can obviously be problematic.
Well, maybe that's our common ground. I think that the court in Miglin had a good solution with the two-part test, because I think that really accounts for whether there's unconscionability, whether both parties had lawyers present, and I think it does a good job of allowing private ordering to an extent, but then coming in at the right time if there is some undue influence. But you were telling me you had some criticisms with the...
Well, I mean, it's a good test. I think having to do all the different steps is fair, but it just kind of seems to unconscionability, to me, as a general principle, is kind of encapsulates what the test is. So I don't know if it needed to be defined in that way. They could have maybe done unconscionability.
Like step 1A, step 1B.
Yeah, I don't know that that's necessary. Maybe they could have been like, these are some type of factors you should look for with unconscionability, but I don't know if they needed to go to such an extent to make a whole new test. But that's just my opinion on that.
So I think, in summary, you err on the side of private ordering, and I sort of err on the side of making sure there was no unconscionability or undue influence. But anyway, thank you very much, Professor Maurer.